Once you are clear on who your best fit client is, you can create what I call a first date easy yes offer. And the first date piece will make sense to you in a moment. We're getting into the really juicy stuff now. How a first date easy yes offer will allow you to let go of all the sales and marketing busy work that you think you have to do. And as we go through this workshop, you might be wondering, but will this work for me? Most business coaching programs spend little to no time on the offer, and they spend all of their time on the tactics, the webinar, the sales pages, the sales calls, the launches, the funnels, the copywriting. The problem is mediocre offers are really hard to sell, and it's hard to grow a business when you don't have these foundations in place. Easy yes offers work, and they work forever. Offers come down to human psychology, and that hasn't changed in 10,000 years. Once you get your offer dialed in, so it's an easy yes for your best fit clients, any of those sales and marketing tactics you've been taught will work. Any of them. And so let me know in the comments. Are you willing to create an offer that works? And I would love to know as well, if you have an offer in mind that you want to get more people into and what that is, because as we go through the next piece, I want you to think about that offer and how you can make some tweaks to it right now. The first principle is your offer solves a top of mind pressing problem or a constraint that shows up as specific symptoms. Okay, this is what your people are experiencing in their day-to-day life. So here's an example. You ran a huge launch, took 2 months to prepare and launch, and you only got 4 people signing up. Or you're losing 10 hours a week to sales calls. Or most of my sales calls end in an objection. Or most of my sales calls end in they have to go away and think about it. Or no matter how much I diet, I'm not losing weight. No matter how much I'm exercising, I'm not losing weight. Or no matter how I try and control myself, I can't help but freak out at the family at the smallest trigger. Okay, those are symptoms. Those are things that your people are experiencing in their everyday life. This is what we call point A for your best fit clients. Okay, it's where they are now that they don't want to be. Your offer's got to speak to this point A. You want it to be specific. Most coaches use vague language. For example, they say things like, make more money, instead of sign up 4 new clients into your 5K offer in the next 28 days. See the difference there? Or heal your trauma, vague, versus stop being triggered by your ex every time he fetches your kid or she fetches your kid. Specific, right? These are specific symptoms that show up in the everyday life. Your best fit clients, if you start talking about this in your content, will instantly see that you can help them because it's describing something they're experiencing. And describing the symptom paints a clear picture for them in their minds. They can see it. The brain cannot process generalities and vagueness. It needs to be able to see pictures. It thinks in pictures. So when you present pictures like these symptoms, it can connect the dots that you're the person who can help. This, hands down, is the hardest thing for people to nail. And it's because we are experts in what we do. We're so far removed from our best fit client situation. So it's hard to turn off that expert mind and look at it from the client's point of view. And if this is something you've never done before, it takes a little while to get that part of the brain turned on and get used to thinking in symptoms. But when you activate this way of thinking, it makes everything so much easier. Principle number 2 is your offer must create the gap. If you've done any kind of sales and marketing training, the gap is what you've been taught, okay? It's the thing that we do on sales calls. And quite simply, it's hell versus heaven, or it's pain versus pleasure. One of my coaches used to call it Suck Island versus Paradise Island. And I like that, so that's what I call it, Suck versus Paradise. Okay, it is simply the space between where your prospect is now in their pain versus where they want to be in their pleasure or their version of heaven. Okay, if there's no clear gap, there's no reason to hire you. An easy yes offer has the gap baked right into it because this is far more efficient than having to create it on a sales call. And most sales call scripts want you to really dig into the pain and make the prospect feel even worse about their situation, which, in my opinion, is really not a good way to start a working relationship. So here is an example of an offer with the gap baked right into it for you. We'll create your easy yes offer priced at 2 to 5K so you can enroll dream clients now without sales calls, cold DMs, complicated tech, fishing for clients in Facebook groups, or you having to handle objections. Guess whose program that is? Mine. It's the Client Accelerator. Okay. The pleasure or the heaven here is pretty obvious. Sales without sales calls or handling objections is super hot. For clients now, not after a huge launch or 6 weeks of marketing, that's pretty hot, all right? Notice too, the pain is also baked right in. When my clients work with me on their offers, they trade 60-minute sales calls that end and I have to think about it, or I can't afford it, or I'm in, how do I pay? All without getting on a sales call. They also trade the pain of having to spend hours messaging people every day, fiddling with tech, pushing in Facebook groups for clients, and so on. They trade the pain of not being available to hang out with their kids after school because they got to get this launch done, or they got to do the sales call. They got to finish coaching this person through their objections. The next one is say it how they would say it. You've got to use the markets and the language of your people. So you want to get clear on how they experience and talk about their problems and their desires. If you don't, then they won't resonate and they won't connect the dots to the person who can help them. You don't want to use industry jargon or fancy words or coach speak. You want your language to be as clear and simple as possible. And often we get too caught up in our own mind and thoughts. So we'll say things in a certain way because it makes sense to us, yet your market would talk about it in a slightly different way. So you've got to make sure you're speaking directly to your best fit client, the one that you want to enroll as well. And what I mean by this is sometimes people will start working with someone at a more beginner kind of level, and then they want to shift and work with someone more experienced, more advanced as they've evolved. It's a natural progression. Now, the beginner and the advanced might have the same kind of problems, but they experience them in different ways, and they will talk about them in different ways. So we want to make sure that we switch our language to focus on the exact person we're wanting to enroll. Does this make sense? There is the first date part. This is one of the biggest problems that coaches, experts, and leaders make with their offers. They ask for too big of a commitment too soon. And I always love to use dating analogies because it's something that everyone can understand. You wouldn't walk into a bar and ask someone you've just met to marry you and have your children. At least I hope you wouldn't. Okay, yet we so often do this with our prospects. When I refer to a marriage proposal with your offer, I'm talking about a long-term commitment or a big energy investment, not the price. When we ask for marriage on the first date, we're asking someone to commit to a 6 or a 12-month program in the hopes that we can give them the huge transformation that they want. Or we create a 3-month program and we stuff 12 months worth of content in it. Both of these are huge time and energy commitments. And if you put someone into a marriage proposal offer for 2K, they're not going to continue working with you in your deeper dive, longer term programs. People naturally seem to put too much into their programs because they think to justify the price, they've got to stuff it with more things, more strategies, more worksheets, more calls, more videos. But if you do this, often your clients will get demoralized, they won't finish, they won't get the results, and they won't continue with you because they've got to go away and implement all the stuff you've just given them. So instead, you want your easy yes offer to be like a first date. This is the offer that you promote on social media and your email list and so on. You want to keep it short, to the point, and focus on one transformation only. Now, I know you can help your people with a ton of things, and you probably have a big vision for where you want to take your clients. But for this offer, you want one simple, distinct, meaningful result. Now, usually when we help our clients get one transformational result, there's other outcomes and results. But I want you to focus on the main one for this. As an example, we'll create your easy yes offer priced at 2 to 5K so you can enroll clients now without sales calls and all of that other stuff. The big outcome here is an easy to sell offer that gets you off long sales calls, removes the marketing tactics you don't enjoy, and removes objections. Okay, it's an easier way to make sales. The best thing about these easy yes offers is that they're your best sales tools as well. Once you've got a result for your clients and they're seeing momentum, it's super easy to get them to enroll into your next thing, into a longer term program, if you have one. If you don't have one at this stage, don't even worry about it. It's something we can address later, okay? But the longer term program that comes next is the one where you're going for mastery of some kind. You're going for that big, bold outcome. When they see that your stuff works for them and the impact that it has on their life, you don't even need to sell the next thing to them. Often they will ask how they can carry on with you. And this is also a really great way to set up monthly recurring income so you are not starting at zero every month.